must have seen a lot of discussions, if I can put it politely, about feasibility studies. What's your view?
You know, so from our side, it's really a matter of understanding what it is that you can develop there from a legal perspective. So when you're looking at a site, it's not just about whether the site itself looks nice. Then we have to look at, well, what is the actual documentation that's issued for this property say you can do? And in Vietnam in particular, it is very, very specific. So, you know, it is not uncommon that we get a client that comes to us and says, I have this land which is designated agricultural land and I'd like to build a hotel. And then we have to talk about, well, what is your time frame? Because you now have to go through conversion processes, you're going to need to get a lot of sign-offs to get you there. So it's not just about the site selection, whether or not it would be great as a hotel. You need to look at what the legal feasibility of that project is going to be. And then you need to also understand what are the limitations that you're going to be navigating from a legal and a tax perspective. So what are your tax obligations on that type of property? How is your financing going to impact your revenues and your tax liability in the jurisdiction? You know, these are all things that have to be factored in when you're doing your initial feasibility of the development.
I actually have one more point to add on top of what I just mentioned. You know, in terms of your occupancy and ADR as well as your construction costs. One of the aspects of feasibility, looking at it on a conversion perspective or new build, is are there any other ways to add more value? So conversion-wise, we call that as an asset enhancement initiative. Or are there any other ways in terms of the space that you can outsource it, you can lease it, or space you can use it for multi-functions? So that actually would have a quite fundamental change in terms of your top line as well as your bottom line. Because for example, if you outsource it, actually you are able to get a consistent fee. So that actually, from the perspective of running a hotel is not a bad idea sometimes. So there are actually different scenarios that you can play alongside. And as long as you also able to have the right consultant to help you with this process, that will be important. Because feasibility is not only involving with the internal team itself. I'll give you an example. If there are some developers who wanted to sell their projects, and they build something that at the end those layouts cannot sell, then what's the purpose of it? So it is actually in that sense very important to also have external reputable agents to come in and chip in for some input to fine tune in terms of layout. Does it sell in that location with this layout, or should the room size be slightly larger, or what other facilities would actually be adding as a complementary services for that?
I think, yeah, some very good points there. And I, as an operator, have been on the receiving end of some very interesting pro formas that were signed 4 or 5 years earlier. One particular, I remember in the Middle East, as a number 2 at Intercontinental, where the pro forma said that we would do 55% occupancy in our first year in a market that was lucky to do 60%. I would always say, that was one of the biggest risks and potentially, if you're dealing between operator and owner, that is immediately going to be a source of discontent. And Morgan, your point about macro level economics in general as well, I see perhaps it's average rate that tends to be overstated. I don't know what you all think on that.
I mean, what I will add is Vietnam is somewhat of a unique market in the region in that it's very much dependent on internal tourism. So a lot of the travel, there is certainly a large number of foreign arrivals in Vietnam, but